Right, there's a few things on my mind. One of these was Nick Fuentes had an interview on a black podcaster's show, and it was one of these moments that I was reminded of when I was younger, during the early hip-hop period, that there were white dudes that liked hip-hop, but they weren't like doing this guilt thing. I mean, it's simply like they grew up around who they grew up around, and those were their friends. And that's why hip-hop became a genre. It was white money. And a lot of black people just need to just deal with this. It's entirely now black Americans who won't deal with, you live in a multi-racial state. Deal with it. Like, and they don't get, like, this is generational, and the only gathering point black Americans have socially, outside of kind of kith and kin, is the church. And it makes sense when you think of the period of time that black Americans would have come, that the ancestors would have come from via slavery and via, what do you call it, not the press. You could buy your way out of the boat ticket, and that would be from, like, say, Jamaica or St. Croix, or Bahamas, or something like that. And there are a variety of places. Cuba. There's this, and of course, even then, these would have even had different names. Barbados and stuff like that. So, and that's where you then end up getting these kind of unique clusters of people that do have sort of uniquely different outcomes than other black Americans that, when they came out of the South, they had pretty much their kith and kin, if their kith and kin were there, and if they got involved in a church, or if eventually they kind of moved up in society and became part, like, say, Prince Hall Masonry or something like that, they started to change their outcomes. But then there was a lot of people that, no, they ended up, was it Freddy's on the corner? And now Freddy's dead, and they ended up as Super Flying Freddy, and that's how that goes. That's the fate of some people. People don't want to discuss when that happened to whites. When whites came out of rural America and filled the cities to start manufacturing and steal and do all these big things that these cities were once known for, because without the white labor, there wouldn't be anything for the blacks to do. This needs to be dealt with, it needs to be handled, and it needs to be dealt with in an adult way. Nick Fuentes finally said, I loved it, he finally used adult words that you can't get black people to use. Either you're being, you're just not being honest, or you're delusional, and I feel sorry for you then. And that really is the best, and I really want people to understand those words. That's the best you're getting. You've been told by your white friend who likes the same music as you do, but has vastly different beliefs about a lot of other stuff, but he's not a mark. Is he a mark? No. Why? How do you know this? He never goes to a place where he's going to get jacked. He scopes it out, goes, this looks jacktastic, and he doesn't go there. People have either white friends who are not caught slipping, or it's that you have that white homie who's had to fight his way out because he got caught slipping every single time. And there's a lot of black people who, like, especially from Gen X, like, you have that homeboy. He has face tattoos. He has neck tattoos. He had neck tattoos before neck tattoos were inexpensive. He's the guy who told you about the rules in jail, and that's why you never went there, is that white friend. And so he fought his way out. He fought his fucking way out of every situation because he got caught slipping over and over again trying to kick it with black people. And Nick Fuentes is not that guy. He's not, he's, oh my God, I can't believe I even quoted one of these kind of dudes. You know what I'm talking about. And so Nick Fuentes is not that guy. He's not that guy. Because he's not going to get caught slipping a bunch of Negroids who are going to jack him for his fucking whip, dude. He's just not going to do it. He's not stupid. And this is really like a lot of... So there's this thing of the effeminate mind, a lot of like black people with a microphone and a camera, a lot of generally women, you know, in America and the Western world now, this mental effeminacy. It's this thing of, no, he should get caught slipping. He should get caught slipping. He should take one for the team. He should get gangbanged in the butt by black dudes in prison for the horrible things he said. Because, of course, to the effeminate, demented, mutant mind, prison is like this fantasy world where the people they don't like get their comeuppance. This is why Antifa never goes to prison. Why you literally, like, you almost can't find a way there's almost nothing a person from Antifa or BLM can do that gets them put in fucking prison. The BLM people who go to prison, these are people who have long since been in prison a time or two. But when it comes to Antifa, oh, no. And I mean, it doesn't matter if they're caught in trafficking, which seems to be this thing with Antifa people, is, they're not going to prison because everybody knows that there's, that they would be among the others, as I've been told, not by the white homie, but kind of a white dude who I'm like, dang, you kind of remind me of my homies from back in the day, except you went to prison. And the others have to look out for each other because they're not down with anybody else and nobody wants to be down with them. But they are super freak mutoids, and sexual deviants. And so because they look out for each other, they end up having kind of a power in numbers. And but who knows what would happen if and I really mean that, like, who knows what would happen if a lot of these people ended up going up, and especially then what they would expose about their network of communist pieces of shit, that to not have to side with the others in Comstock or whatever, just so somebody doesn't get shit on their dick, and so something I started to think about was the way that this interview went down, the way that Fuentes responded to these guys, the way he just broke it down, that he broke it down in this regard of there's nothing he can do. This is really, no matter how you feel about him, there's nothing he can do. His opinion is what it is, but he's like, I don't think, I forget how he put it. I'd have to watch it again. Because he got across the whole idea of whether you like this criticism or not, there's nothing I can do because you are the people who are getting gunned down in your neighborhoods. I don't have to go there. I don't have to go into your neighborhood, and I'm fine. Why are you mad at me? Because I'm saying what is obviously happening to you, and that it's a tragedy. Why is this verboten speech? Why am I the bad guy? And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful that he made this very clear. That it's just like, no. He had to take the woman, who is the Negro man, by the fucking shoulders and shake him. And be like, bitch, shut the fuck up. What the fuck is wrong with you? This is all your fault. You did this. You create this. You tolerate it. You celebrate it. There is I am not in error here. You've brought me to this fucking event, and I'm supposedly the bad guy, but I'm sorry. Where I live, everything's fine. What I'm doing, everything's fine. None of the people who are Fuentes fans are doing things to people. Doing real things to people, where you see fans of people like Hassan and Vaush and Unicorn Riot and the Young Turks, these Antifa whack jobs, these people who are that they'll network from nursing all the way into academia and even into public positions like the post office. You'll find these people doing things to people they don't agree with politically, throwing out campaign flyers, doing stuff to vote envelopes. I mean, all kinds of chicanery. And so it's really great, this complete showing of, no, everybody who is left of center, I don't think you get this. You're effeminate. Your mind is Machiavellian. Your mind works like a mean little girl in middle school. That's how your brain operates. That's the way you think. You don't think according to honor and principle. That doesn't matter. It's honor and principle doesn't matter. Once you start skewing leftward, it is seen as a fundamental weakness. It is seen as a farce that was invented by dudes with beards. Rather than it is a fundamental of civil society, that without honor, without principle, you can't have trust at all, and therefore there is no civis. You are in isolated villages. Now, a lot of you want that. You want tiny, weird village living. You want some fantasy world that people draw poorly. That's another one I don't get, is the effeminacy in art. How art left of center is garbage. 9 times out of 10, you see thousands of dollars went to some project to have things drawn with all sort of bumper sticker leftist ideas and mom think all over it and stuff, and it's like in crayon, and not even like crayon where you look at it and you're like, wow, like beautiful crayons, like beautiful art crayon, like child crayons, and the thousands and thousands of dollars went to this child crayons project to communicate the good feelings you have when you have diversity and everyone sees women doing everything. We no longer hire men so that you could see women laboring, doing everything. So therefore it must mean that women do everything. And now, of course, in all the fields that pay the most because they're incredibly dangerous and they require high focus and skill for extremely long amounts of time, which is that's what it's about, is that your body and your brain can take the rigor of very, very long shifts under pressure, and that you have, say, a chemical coursing through your veins, that the more you pump your muscles up, the more it releases something that makes you not feel stress. It's a stress-killing anabolic drug that naturally pumps out of your musculature. Man, the superiority, I feel it. I can actually feel it. I wonder what it's like to not feel that feeling. So, I'm sure there's a video on YouTube that can tell me exactly what it's like to not feel the feeling of being big and confident and strong. Really wanting those feelings and being kind of small and scared all the time. I'm sure there's a video on it. And so one of the things I want to get across then to the Democrats, why you've lost, why there's a high likelihood you've lost. you're watching this after you lose or just before the elections as you're running up to what will probably be a pretty big loss. How did it happen? Well, I wanted to open up with these examples, and then this kind of thing of, now I'm not effeminacy. This is my idea. This is from one of the arch right-wingers of right-wingness. So right-wing that you have to be deep right, Catholic right, utter hardcore Christian right to know who this is, and then you have to be this kind of person that you will read sort of the most dangerous Catholic woman's blog in the world. And so you got to know who this person is to know who she is and what she said and how much it affected the right. And that's the deal with effeminacy. And really the more it comes out more and more, and it's really amazing to watch big black dudes, hardcore, no mustache with beard, bald head black guy, just break into full-on, middle school girl levels of, I can't handle that. How about we talk about how you be doing this, or, oopa, it becomes this oopa doopa doopa. It's just a bunch of guys screaming oopa doopa. You want somebody to just start banging a bongo on some of these shows as they all start just blah 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 blah, when the white right kind of does it, they don't step on each other. They just don't. And even when there's debates, it's there's the guy who keeps trying to step on everybody, and after a while, it's become this thing of, no, that's what the left does. The leftists are effeminates, so they're always stepping on your comments on these podcasts. So somebody like Fuentes, he just goes straight there. He literally he gives them the old ice troll treatment. He stabs and twists. That's it, and that's all he needs. He gives them the old ice troll treatment, and that's why he's won. That's why he's a pinnacle of the right. That he's won. People have to go to him now. They have to challenge him. It's who's going to actually try to go up against him, because he will probably win. And it doesn't matter what PPP and Warski say. They're entertaining, but they're not. Sorry, PPP. You will never. You and Warski will never have something other than kind of entertaining content that has some political value and stuff. But no, Fuentes is going to affect politics because he already is. People have to react to him. They have to. And the reason why is because what he's talking about in our country of the United States is extremely important. And people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with various cultural issues that go back to some issues. These are things going back to the colonies. And that's why Canada is, because you guys don't realize who lives here. And that when you lived here, there were some of us that scared the hell out of you, and you guys left. And so that's now becoming something that can only get called out if you are an American who really, really knows about the history of the regions in the United States. If you don't know about it, you usually are just a leftist. you just don't have knowledge, so you go toward the left. Because that's effeminacy, the 12-year-old girl. The 12-year-old girls don't really know that much. So they haven't been around that long. So now, one of the things about the left is that the left has engaged in this idea that the fool card of Tarot is some great symbol, and everybody's a fool, and even the wise are fools, or something, just these kook-nard hippie ideas that mean nothing, that literally, they actually do mean nothing at all. And more, the right has come to this stage where they're like, a lot of the stuff you guys like on the cultural left is just kind of crap that's meaningless. And that you all are like, oh, you're just uncultured and you don't have knowledge. It's like, no, really. It is meaningless crap. Like, if you were from the old left, you would know that. But you're not from the old left. You guys are from the new left. You're these posers who you never Thelonious Monked. That's not something that your parents thought important for you to know that music so that you can understand one of the most advanced forms of jazz that evolved from America, because America has a culture, and every ethnicity participated in ragtime, blues, and then the later development of jazz. There's a lot of people that they can't handle that. They can't handle that Italians and Jews were a major part of the development of jazz. They hate that. They hate admitting that. They hate admitting that Irish people were a major part of there even being stand-up comedy. There's actually a book called "Blame the Irish, Italians and Jews." It's literally a book, just like the book Empire of Their Own, which Empire of Their Own is about when the Jews started Hollywood. And it's 6 families. These 6 families all came from one very specific area of Eastern Europe. They all lived they all originated within 400 miles of one another. And they started it all because of Edison and Edison's trademark on motion pictures on the East Coast. And they wanted to do entertaining reels. So, up until even my day, you could find these penny reels from way back in the day that, and they still ran on pennies when I was young, at the Cliff House, where this guy, the Musée Mécanique, as it was kind of falling into further and further disrepair in those days. And so it was, and it was interesting. There was, dancing girls is typically what they were. Or like a creeper. The creeper, and he attacks this woman, and this guy comes in and they fight, an old-fashioned fight. Fisticuffs. The hero comes in, gauges him in fisticuffs. Guy, and it's all those old kooky fun movies. But you see, that's really knowing the culture. That's knowing American culture. That's having lived it. A lot of what the left are people who it appears you just never really lived a lot, or something, that you're from some very weird, unfun background or something. I can't even get it sometimes, how weird the left comes across. Until recently, it started to become more and more clear from Arrest Records and Andy Ngo's work on people who are Antifa members that a lot of these people are solidly the upper middle class. They come from the upper middle class, no matter if upper middle class was not very wealthy where they're from. It still is just no, you've always had access to an automobile. Has there ever been a time that you didn't have some kind of access to an automobile? You are middle class. That's what was the size of the place you lived in? Where did you live? And how many incomes were in your home? And they don't want to deal with that. Like Foucault, they don't want anybody to know about their background. Which you could tell, there is, judge me by my work, but then it also does bring up the question, and exactly what is it about your background? Oh, I see. Okay, you know that there's something about not being middle class, or having a penchant for buggery, or just being a weirdo, that if people were to look into you, they would see that you're a weirdo, and that that would take away from your credibility. That people would understand, oh, no, this is just a weirdo. Oh, man, the squirrel, he took off. The squirrels get really cool and bold in this season, so they'll even, kind of confront you. They're busy with, collecting food and burying it. So it's they'll kind of confront you, what's up? Like this is my territory. And it's adorable. It's absolutely adorable. I love when the squirrels do that. This is really a very beautiful walk. I don't know if you're seeing these trees behind me right now. These are dope. So this is one of the key points at the super far into the video. Years ago, a decade, it's now a decade, the young right started asking questions about their Christian upbringing. And specifically, they started trying to deal with the effect the evangelicals had on their kind of upbringing, and then what does it mean to be conservative or right of center or Christian, because they're running into a lot of all the same social problems and social pressures of anybody else. And they were like, yeah, I'm finding the perspective I was raised with lacking in any kind of sort of ability to keep me from doing wrong. They were like, I'm just as degenerate as anybody else. This was actually a very good admission, because Christianity isn't supposed to be magic. I think that this is a part of America kind of maturing in a way. I think the Orthodox, the reason so many people are becoming Orthodox is because of a type of mature nature that Protestants, the hot mix of Catholics and Protestants over the last century has now made people truly, and then the introduction of Kabbalistic thinking, which is way more pervasive than people want to think, down to the video games, and I mean, and it's because to some degree Kabbalah is based on old mathematical, old systems of ways you taught math, and so really efficient mathematical structures in video games share a structure similar to Kabbalistic structures when you see them put together. So, and it's just because the efficiency of a math puzzle, of a logical math puzzle. There's that changing on the right to this self-reflective part, that it took a decade, and then, so as these guys are becoming self-reflective, the feminists strike all across Tumblr. There was some other thing that apparently they were once on that was even before Tumblr, but it becomes this thing of all these kind of young Christians who are not yet right-wing, and the feminists go nuts online. And these guys are trying to figure out what to do for their future. And now you all see the results a decade later. They had no idea what they were doing to these guys. They had no clue what they were making these guys see. And it's done. I mean, the damage is done. There's no going back and trying to explain it and being like, no. There's a decade to the point that every single social platform, institutions across all academia, accreditation organizations, international accreditation, all of this has bent, obviously, to the defense of Milady and defending the hoes, defending the feminists from supposedly what are attacks of the online right. Where what this is this was this brilliant period of time that these guys were evaluating, am I correct? Was my dad correct? This is actually the funny moment, I think, of literally Archie Bunker with Meathead. They're trapped in the ice cooler. They're trapped in the fridge. Remember back in the day, every sitcom, you get trapped in a fridge, and then you reflect on death. So Archie Bunker says to Meathead, he goes, my dad taught me, and it's this long soliloquy. He goes, is he wrong? He fed me, he clothed me, he put a roof over my head, and you're telling me he was wrong? Now, what happened online, there was a generation like my dad that they said, maybe my dad was wrong. Good, solid, liberal, white American dad, maybe my dad was wrong. Now, when this happened online for this generation, the feminists came in and kicked everyone in the fucking balls in the middle of the scene. And they said, maybe my dad needed to teach me to shoot. Maybe what we need to do is, maybe Pinochet wasn't wrong, like, you guys fucked this up. You did this. Every chance you got to, in some way, and this is blacks, the pro-women women, the pro-black blacks, in everybody who gets offended, the people who for some reason keep acting like, oh no, an empire of their own, that's not real. And it's like, that's pride. The whole thing of, oh, black people dominate sports. I'm sorry, you're not going to find almost any black people who are going to say, what a shame that you would say such a thing. How could you? How could you say such a thing? There's a lot of black people involved in professional sports. I mean, like, no black people say this. No black people say, like, there's a lot of black people in entertainment. Oh, how could you? No, this is never said, ever. Nobody has ever said anything like this. But yet when you point out something that is, yes, the name on the studio is Mayor Goldwyn. The name on the studio is Fox. The name on the studio is, and it's like, what are we fucking schlemiels? What, we got sheep heads? What are you fucking, well, like, come on now. Who's the sucker here? But then it becomes obvious, no, who's the pimp and who's the hoe? And that liberal whites have become hoes. They're a culture of hoes that they are constantly being pimped out by who they have to have some kind of political alliance with to really institute what is now very obviously Marxist policy. And Marxist policy that's really meant for, like, no, then we form a syndicate that oversees this department or ministry or whatever, and we all clean up. And because that's what this is about, like all the, give to this fund that's going to bail people out. So what it is it's a get-out-of-jail-free card for criminals. Give money for our efforts to stop homelessness on the streets of name democratic city. And so it's a bunch of people, who are probably quasi-homeless or homeless, and they are getting paid to live someplace for free, and they're getting a nice stipend. And so nobody's really fooled anymore. And this is what politically you're facing, is no one's fooled any longer. Now people are, it's just like, yeah, we got it, we see what is going on here. And the Democrats aren't really getting, like, no, now you need frankness. You see, the power of Nick Fuentes is in his frankness, and that people can't deal with it. They're no longer constructed to be able to deal with that level of frankness. And there's nothing that's going to change that until people are frank back, and they just say, like, no, I'm a Marxist, I want free shit. Until they say this, they're not being honest, and for whatever reason they can or can't say that out loud. Hey, speaks volumes. So this was just something I for a while I was trying to kind of congeal a lot of these thoughts because of the past few videos I made. There was just a lot that, in a way, I was kind of leaving on the table thinking. But I just mostly wanted to put, like, this was a good example of why Democrats and liberals are losing. Is that at a certain point, the right can literally say, why are you acting like people like you aren't being killed by people like you, not people like me? Like, why is this so difficult for you? What is so goddamn hard about dealing with this this level of math? Because I don't have to care. That's the part I really like, is that at a certain stage, it's this thing of I don't have to care. He's like, I do care because it is a credo. It's a part of my credo as a Christian, but I don't have to care because I'm white and I don't live there. He's like, so what? Why are you playing games about this? and I really like that. I really like that because that's what needs to be said. As hood-servative, both of us kind of, we kind of get this. Like Trey the NVD, a lot of these people, they get it that no. All it's going to be is when white people stop giving up the money. That's it. That's all it is when they stop paying for it. When they finally are like, no, no, and they're just done. They're like, no, we're not playing anymore. And when that happens, which is starting to happen, that's it. That's the end. That is the end of it. That then it becomes, oh my gosh, we're really broke. And then comes, two-person household and two-person incomes for about 5 to 10 years, and then having kids, and then doing this, and then doing that. Oh, this is what the result is for all these other people who've succeeded. And what we're going to see is a whole lot of single black Americans on mission failure. Yeah, and a lot of hungry old black women, and I'm not kidding. Like Kevin Samuels warned you, but now it's long past all that.